Chapter 76. She is my lucky star. Laura felt that she was forced. It took them an hour and a half to reach the resort. As soon as his car came to a stop, 2 rows of waiters greeted him respectfully. Mr. Walton, second master, second madam, and the 4th master have entered. Yes, William Walton coldly replied as he walked towards her. He reached out and took her hand. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, they walked towards the isolated villa near the lake. She turned her head to look at him and whispered, "Didn't you guys come here to enjoy the vacation? Can you not exaggerate so much?" Exaggerate? What do you mean? Isn't it an exaggeration to be welcomed by so many people? Or do you like the feeling of being surrounded? William Walton smirked. What do you think is the purpose of customers spending so much money to stay here for the night? I want to enjoy the atmosphere and to enjoy the services here, which is one of their services. That's why we don't understand the world of the rich. For people like me, going on vacation is like finding a city to travel to, eating local food by the street, doing as locals do. I don't understand why you need someone to serve you. William Walton looked at her. Then from now on, you'll have to get used to my lifestyle. As the 2 spoke, they had already arrived at the villa by the lake. Jack Walton and Benjamin Walton were fishing by the lake. Carol Wright sat between the 2 of them. Hearing footsteps, the 3 of them turned around. Benjamin Walton waved his hands at the 2 of them. William, Laura, quickly come over. Jack Walton and I are in a fishing competition. The waiter brought the small luggage that William Walton brought into the villa. William Walton pulled her hand and walked over. Seeing the 2 of them holding hands, Carol concealed and turned her gaze away. She nodded to them. Mr. Walton, Miss Wright, hi. Carol Wright stood up and smiled at Laura. Miss Green, hi, it's good to see you here. Yeah, sorry to bother you. Don't say it like that, aren't we a family now? Carol Wright said and then asked, William, do you want to fish? William Walton asked, didn't they say that they compete? What rewards will there be if we win? The winner will have the right to choose the room first. Benjamin Walton laughed. William, I am representing you in the tournament. In any case, I live alone, and it doesn't matter where I live. William Walton said disdainfully. No need, I'll do it myself. Carol Wright said gently, Miss Green, come sit with me for a while. William Walton tugged on her warm hand and said, she can't go, she has to sit by my side. She's my lucky star. Hearing his words, Benjamin Walton sat there and said, wow. Laura embarrassed, she poked him in the head. Stop messing around. Benjamin Walton laughed. Laura, I'm not messing around, I feel that it's interesting. I have never seen William giving such a good position to a woman before. Have you ever seen that? Jack Walton? Jack Walton, who was sitting in a wheelchair at the side and had not made a sound all this time, smiled lightly and said, no. Carol Wright bit her lips, retreated 2 steps, and sat back in her chair. William Walton sat down and pulled her seat to his side. Laura felt awkward. She sat down. Being teased by a stinking brat was such a disgrace. This William Walton, he was so numb to let her act along with him in front of his family. A lucky star? If he was unable to catch a single fish in a while, he would lose face. Originally, Laura thought that William wouldn't win the competition since he was the latest one joined in the game. But he became the first person to catch a fish. He won. Benjamin Walton said in a speechless manner, William, why are you so good at fishing? Jack Walton was willing to admit defeat, and laughed. Didn't William have a lucky star by his side? Benjamin Walton looked at her. Laura, come sit at my place and be my lucky star. William Walton's face was filled with disdain. Stop dreaming, she's only my lucky star. He stood up and warmly said, come on, let's go and pick the room. Benjamin Walton waved her hand. Laura, quickly go with William. She truly did not want to hear the words Laura. She nodded towards Jack Walton and Carol Wright, then followed William Walton into the villa. The 2 of them looked at the rooms from the 1st floor to the 3rd floor. William Walton asked, have you decided yet? Which room would you like to live in? Laura Green looked at him with a face of concern. Can you tell Benjamin not to call me Laura? It feels so weird. Then what should he call you? Teacher? You are no longer his teacher, and you admitted that you want to marry me in front of him, so I should call you by your name. I think he is right, he said as he opened the door of the room in front of him. How about this one? The scenery of the lake, the mountains, the scenery, and most importantly, the bed is very big and can be rolled away. She walked in and took a look. Wow, I finally understand why everyone wants to become a capitalist. Isn't this scene very pleasing? You seem to like it. Very well, we'll stay here tonight. After William Walton finished speaking, she turned around from the window and looked at him warmly. We? He said frankly. That's right, we. There are so many rooms here. You said that the 2 of us will be living in the same room? Right. Right? She was surprised. How dare you? In the eyes of others, we are lovers. So what? We're not married. Why do we live together? He hugged his chest. I am William Walton, and in front of my brothers, could it be that I want to tell them that I can't even deal with my woman? And I will live apart from my woman during the trip? I'm not yours. She crossed her arms with an unhappy expression on her face. You are not my woman? You can't have forgotten who was your first man, right? She stomped her feet and said, you're bringing up this matter again. Seeing her embarrassed and angry expression, William Walton chuckled softly. This is settled. I don't agree. William Walton smirked. We live in the same room. I won't touch you. There was something else she wanted to say. William Walton said, let's go downstairs. I'll bring you to play golf. When the two of them reached the first floor, Carol Wright just happened to enter as well. Seeing the two, Carol Wright asked with a stiff smile on her face, have you two chosen yet? I also came back to choose my room. We're done. Go and pick. As he spoke, he pulled her away from him, intending to go out. Carol Wright turned her head to look at him, and softly said, can I talk to you for a while? They both stopped and looked back at her. Carol Wright laughed. Can I have a chat with you alone for a while? Now? Carol Wright nodded. She tactfully withdrew her hand from William Walton's grasp. Then I'll go out and wait for you two. Chapter 77. Carol, I am very happy. After Laura left, Carol Wright walked in front of William Walton. William, are you serious with Miss Green? In your opinion, I'm not serious? Carol Wright bit her lips as she looked at him. It was precise because he looked like he couldn't be more serious than she felt so uncomfortable. I know, I've let you down. Some things have already passed and I should not bring them up again. But deep William, can you? He interrupted her. What should be forgotten, we should all forget. What should not be mentioned, then we will all remain silent. At the moment, it seems that this is a good idea for all of us. William, seeing you like this, I feel uncomfortable. In my life, my biggest hope is for you to be happy. Do you understand? I'm very happy now. William Walton said as he looked at her. Evening fall, I'm very happy now, so don't worry about me anymore. He reached out and lightly patted Carol Wright's shoulders. Go and choose a room. If we talk too much, Jack will be sad. He smiled at her and turned away. At that moment, tears fell down Carol Wright's face like rain. When Benjamin Walton reached the lakeside, Benjamin was talking to Jack Walton endlessly. Seeing her coming over, Benjamin Walton waved his hand. Laura, have you decided yet? Yes, I chose a room with exceptionally good scenery. Jack Walton looked at Laura's side and frowned. Where is William? Two. When she thought about the look in Carol Wright's eyes when she was looking at William Walton and she was Jack Walton's wife, she immediately said, he's in the washroom. I wanted to take a breath of fresh air, so I came out first. Just as she finished speaking, William Walton pushed open the door and came out. Benjamin Walton said, William is here. Jack Walton looked back, and the space between his eyebrows loosened up a bit. He turned around and continued fishing. With a warm smile, she said, you are so fast. Are you afraid that I'll run away? As she spoke, she gave a wink to him. William Walton bit his lips, rubbed her legs. You don't dare. She rolled her eyes. You underestimated me. If you run away, I'll break your legs and take care of you. Benjamin Walton looked like he was about to collapse. Oh my God, I'm only 18 years old. Please don't make me sick. If the two of you continue to be like this, I'll go and find someone to be with. She blushed and said, you've said too much. While they were chatting, Carol Wright had already returned. Benjamin Walton put down his fishing rod. Fishing is too boring. William, what should we do in a while? Go play golf. William Walton looked at Laura. Can you play golf? She shook her head. I can't. Perfect. I'll teach you. Carol Wright walked behind Jack Walton and laughed. You really should go and play golf, Miss Green. You still don't know. William is very good at playing golf. He has won too many prizes. After she finished speaking, William Walton glanced at her. She realized something and immediately went silent. She turned around and pushed Jack Walton's wheelchair. Jack, let me push you. Forget it. I won't go over. It's inconvenient for me to do so. If I go, I will only ruin your mood and cause trouble. I will be fishing here. You guys can go have some fun. Thinking about the inconvenience of his legs, she looked at William Walton and smiled. In the future, when the two of us go out alone, you can teach me. This time, we can play something else. William Walton looked at her and gave her a doting smile. All right, then tell me, what do you want to play? We just happen to have 5 people. Which one of you knows how to play cards? Benjamin Walton was surprised. Laura, you want to bet money? Who said that they want to gamble? I want to ask you all if anyone is interested in protecting the Emperor. The few of them looked at each other, but no one made a sound. She clapped her hands and happily, great, let me teach you guys, let's play cards. The ones who lose should make roasting food for everyone at noon later on. How about it? Benjamin Walton raised his hand first. I agree. She asked the waiter to help her find the cards, and she told him the rules. Soon, the waiter brought the poker cards over. The 5 of them began their battle. After played 3 rounds in a row, she was stunned. At first, she thought that since she was the only one of the 5 who knew how to play, she would win absolutely. But she had forgotten that her rival was Walton's family. William Walton and Jack Walton were both exceptionally shrewd. After 6 rounds, the results were obvious. She had lost 6 rounds in a row, Benjamin had lost 4, and Carol Wright had lost 3. She had a nagging feeling that ever since she got to know William Walton, she'd been doing this sort of thing often. Benjamin Walton heaved a sigh of relief. Laura, luckily I have you. Otherwise, I would be a chef today. Thank you very much. She rolled her eyes at him and said, you better not talk. She got up and went to get the barbecue materials and food from the waiter. Half an hour later, she was already sitting in front of the barbecue rack, preparing to start the barbecue. On the other side, the 4 people were seated around a table, happily sipping tea. She felt all sorts of dissatisfaction in her heart. They had played for 6 rounds, but there was not a single game in which William and she were co-workers. It seemed that she and William Walton were natural enemies, even when they were playing cards. Carol Wright sat down for a moment, then stood up and went to Laura Green's side. "Miss Green, let me help you." "Thank you, Miss Wright. I can do it myself. It's not that difficult." "Earlier, William said that your culinary skills are exceptionally good. Looks like I'm really lucky today," she said in embarrassment. "The kebabs won't be used for cooking anymore." Carol Wright pursed her lips and smiled, then sat down beside her to accompany her. Not far away at the round table, Jack Walton saw Carol Wright leave, and asked, "William, I heard that you have been targeting the Anderson family?" "That's true. Why did you suddenly think of attacking the Anderson family?" Jack Walton looked at him. "Do you think that this is the right time? You don't think so?" Jack Walton thought for a while, then curled his lips. "The life that the Anderson family owes us is indeed something that we should repay." Chapter 78. A Capitalist is a Black Sheep. William Walton indifferently lifted his teacup and took a sip. "If it's to make them pay for their lives, then what they have to bear right now is far from enough." Jack Walton raised his eyebrows. "Oh, does it seem that you have another purpose?" William Walton pursed his lips and smiled. "Jack, you don't need to worry about this matter. I have my little scheme." Jack Walton did not say anything else. At the side, Carol Wright wanted to help Laura, but she was unable to do so. She said warmly, "Miss Wright, you can go rest over there. I can settle this by myself." "They are chatting. I can't interrupt, so I'll stay here to accompany you." She smiled warmly and didn't say anything. Carol Wright pursed her lips and said, "Today this poker card, it's quite interesting." "Is it?" "Yes. People who couldn't make a pair in real life could easily make a pair when playing cards." She was happy when she was with William. On the other side, William Walton stood up and walked to the grill. Carol Wright said, "William, you should find a professional to deal with these things. Miss Green is a girl. Choking on smoke is not good for her skin." William Walton hugged his chest as he stared at the Laura Green, and curled his lips. "How is it? Do you need help?" she said. "I refuse. I understand the principle that one is willing to admit defeat if one is willing to gamble." Carol Wright laughed helplessly. "Miss Green, look at you. Who are you arguing with? It's just a game. We didn't take it seriously." William Walton pointed to the side of the table. "Carol, you can go. I'll stay here with her." "Forget it. You can go ahead. It's better if I accompany Miss Green here." When she saw the two of them being so humble, she felt that she was unnecessary. She said, "Either you guys are here, or I should go over and rest." William Walton pulled over a chair and sat down beside her. "My family's little wild cat is angry. Come on, I'll coax you." Laura was provoked by his words into goosebumps. On the other hand, Carol Wright felt a little awkward. She laughed and stood up. "Then the two of you can stay here. I'll go over there first." After she left, she said to William Walton, "Aren't you afraid that the one you love will be sad?" "No matter who I hurt, I won't hurt your heart." Laura Green rolled her eyes. These words were ambiguous. In terms of deceiving people, he truly deserved to be called the #1 in the world. William Walton crossed his legs. "In the future, if you aren't good at games, don't suggest playing them. If you lose at the end, you do nothing but make trouble for yourself." When he said this, she became even more annoyed. Her hand that was smearing seasonings on the skewers became even more forceful, and the oil almost splashed onto his body. He looked at her and smiled. "Did I say something wrong?" She snorted and ignored him. William Walton lovingly poked her temple. "It was your suggestion, and the one who lost was also you. I'm not allowed to comment yet." "William Walton, did you lie to me?" "Why should I lie? If you're just a newbie, how could you play so well?" William Walton laughed sinisterly. "Because my eyes and plans are good. Could it be that being smart is also my fault?" "Are you saying I'm stupid?" "I'm reminding you not to play difficult games with smart people. Poker players don't need to be smart. You can't play well something that doesn't even need to be smart. Do you want me to praise you for being so naive that you don't even need your brain, or to call you stupid?" The capitalist is a black-hearted devil. William Walton raised his hand and caressed her head. She dodged his hand in frustration. Not far away, Jack Walton looked in the direction of the two and slightly raised his eyebrows. Benjamin Walton turned around to take a look and snickered. "Jack, Carol, do you all feel that William and teacher Laura are perfect for each other?" Jack Walton looked at Carol Wright. There was a sense of loss in her eyes. She lifted the teacup, took a sip of tea, and pursed her lips. Laura and William are really sweet. It is a perfect match." Jack Walton lifted the cup of water and took a sip. "I think so." After lunch, Jack Walton said that he wanted to go back to his room to rest. Carol Wright pushed him back to his room, and they stayed on the first floor. William stayed on the second floor and said he would go back to his room to play games. William Walton hugged her shoulders and returned to the third floor. Laura Green entered the room and lazily sat down on the sofa. William Walton said, "Are you not going to rest for a while?" "Yes, I need to rest. You sleep on the bed while I sleep on the sofa," she said calmly. "Wow, this sofa is too soft and comfortable." As she spoke, she lay down on the sofa. William Walton leisurely walked over, gently and vigilantly sat up and looked at her. I have to sleep on the sofa. Don't fight with me for it. That bed is too big. I don't feel comfortable sleeping on it. William Walton sat down beside her. Let's sleep on the bed together. I won't touch you, or maybe we should sleep on the sofa together, and I'll hug you to sleep. You like having others make choice. Didn't you always say that I was overbearing? I gave you choices to prove that I was slowly becoming less overbearing because of you. But are there any differences between these two choices? William Walton smirked. There is. For me, sleeping on the sofa might be less comfortable, but since I can hug you, I am willing to choose the latter. She stood up and gave him the cold shoulder. Then she walked to one side of the bed and lay down. William Walton returned to the bed in satisfaction. He had just sat down when she sat up suddenly. She looked at William and said, Am I embarrassed at lunch today? She could not understand. Wasn't roasting skewers meant to be eaten directly using a skewer? Why did they all cut the meat from the skewers onto a plate and eat it with a fork? They were the ones who had a strange way of eating. But why? The more she thought about it, the more she felt that she was a primitive person. He smiled when he thought of her expression today. The way she tried to hold on to herself while not wanting to compromise with others was really funny. You're not shameful. You're very cute. Compared to us fake cultured people who like to put on airs, you're more real. Only then did she lay down in relief. She wasn't ashamed. Well, she wasn't ashamed at all. As William Walton lied beside her, she thought that she wouldn't be able to sleep. She didn't expect that she would fall asleep so quickly. When she woke up, it was already 4 p.m. William Walton was no longer in his room. She stretched, washed her face, and went downstairs. Beside the lake, William Walton and Jack Walton were playing chess. Carol Wright sat at the side watching. Benjamin Walton was lying on the reclining chair playing games. Seeing that she was out, Carol Wright waved her hand. Miss Green, you wake up so late. She smiled lazily and said, That's right. She looked at William Walton. Why didn't you wake me up? William Walton looked at her lovingly. I saw that you were exhausted, that's why I didn't call you. Once he finished, Benjamin Walton laughed out loud. William, can we not say something that isn't suitable for children? His words made her blush all of a sudden. William Walton, what are you talking about? Chapter 79, Become Eternal. She was embarrassed. After dinner, Carol Wright pushed Jack Walton out for a walk. After the two of them left the lake, she said in a puzzled manner, How strange. What's strange about that? I felt that the person she liked was you, but seeing her together with Jack, I felt that it was very natural. The relationship between the two of them should also be pretty good, right? William Walton shifted his gaze from her face and looked at the dark lake in the distance. Laura pursed her lips. She felt that she might have said something wrong, so she stopped wasting her breath. The peaceful midsummer night, even if the two of them didn't speak, they just sat there like a painting. The person in the painting, listening to the cicadas and frogs blowing the hot summer breeze. At that moment, it was an eternity to her. In the years that followed, whenever she thought of that scene, she realized that it had truly been beautiful. Carol Wright and the others would be back in half an hour. She personally pushed Jack Walton. After went out for a walk, she was already sweating profusely. She got William Walton and Laura Green to help her take care of Jack Walton, so she went ahead and took a bath herself. Jack Walton and William Walton chatted for a while. Seeing that Laura Green did not speak, he asked, Miss Green, when do you and William plan to get married? Huh? Laura froze for a moment. This, too far. William Walton laughed. Our plan is for this year, but if there's too much stuff going on this year, it might be delayed until next year. If that's the case, then shouldn't we meet your parents? Oh right, I still haven't asked around. What do Miss Green's parents do? She clenched her fist. She didn't know how to answer. Jack Walton, her mother is dead, so from now on, we better not mention this anymore. Jack Walton nodded his head. Miss Green, my apologies. I just asked something that I shouldn't have. She smiled warmly. It's all right. You didn't know it before. Jack Walton raised his wrist to look at the time. It's getting late. Shouldn't we go back and rest? William Walton stood up, pushed Jack Walton's wheelchair, and said to her, You can go in first and tell second, sister-in-law, that I'm going to push Jack back. She can get prepared. All right? She entered the villa one step ahead of them. Arriving at the door of Jack Walton's room, she knocked on it. No one answered. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. Miss Wright? Still no one replied. She was curious. Didn't Carol Wright say that she was going to take a bath? Why was there no one in the room? She looked in the direction of the bathroom, hesitated for a moment, then walked over. As she walked, she asked, Miss Wright? Still, no one answered. She gently pushed open the bathroom door and looked inside. Behind the thin, transparent white curtain, a huge white tub could be seen. The tub was filled with water, and a layer of red rose petals floated on top, dark red like blood. At the edge of the bathtub, there was a cup of red wine. Carol Wright rested her wet hair on the bathtub and closed her eyes. Upon seeing this sight, her legs softened, and she staggered a step back. In that instant, her mind flashed back to that stormy night 5 years ago. The bathtub stained with blood, his lifeless mother, and the blood that flowed along the floor. She covered her ears, closed her eyes, and knelt on the ground, screaming like a madman. Ah! Hearing this scream, Carol Wright, who was sleeping in the bathtub, was jolted awake. Seeing Laura Green, she quickly got up from the bath, pulled on her bathrobe, and walked forward. Miss Green, are you all right? And at this time, William Walton, who had already pushed Jack Walton into the living room, heard her screams. He abandoned Jack Walton and rushed towards the room. When he reached the bathroom door, he saw her clutching her head and squatting on the floor, screaming. Carol Wright's wet hair hung down, and she helplessly squatted on the side and called out, Miss Green. He stepped forward, hugged her gently, and looked at Carol Wright. What's going on? Carol Wright looked at him strangely and shook her head. I don't know. I accidentally fell asleep in the bathtub just now and was woken up by Miss Green's scream. When I opened my eyes, I saw this scene. William Walton did not reply. He only lowered his head to look at the screaming Laura Green as he pulled her into his embrace. It's okay. It's okay. I'm here. Seeing William Walton's care and gentleness towards her, a certain corner of Carol Wright's heart felt as if someone had ruthlessly stabbed her. She was envious of Laura Green, and a crazy amount of envy. Laura didn't know what she was doing. She didn't even know she was screaming. In her mind, all she could recall was the blood that filled the bathtub, her mother's pale face, and the wine glasses that rolled on the floor. At that time, it was as if the fear had suddenly returned to her mind and fiercely struck her heart. She was scared. She was scared. She was trembling all over. Her screams attracted the attention of Benjamin Walton, who was upstairs. When Benjamin Walton went downstairs, he saw Jack Walton struggling to turn the wheelchair to return to his room and push Jack Walton in. Entering the house, Benjamin Walton saw the situation and anxiously asked, What's going on, William? What's going on? Carol Wright stood up and ran out in her bathrobe. She came to Jack Walton's front and half, squatted, her face filled with a grievance. I don't know. I just fell asleep in the bathtub. I was woken up by Miss Green's screams. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Jack Walton looked at her, raised her hand, and gently caressed her head, patting her hand which was on his knee. Don't worry, William will take care of this. Carol Wright closed her eyes as tears welled up. She was also shocked. William Walton cupped her warm face with both hands and forced her to look at him. Laura, open your eyes and look at me. When William Walton's figure entered her line of sight, the scene in her mind was instantly torn apart. She threw herself at him as if she was looking at her lifesaver and hugged him tightly. William Walton? William Walton felt her fear. He put one arm around her waist and the other behind her head on his shoulder. The room seemed to have fallen into silence. William Walton carried her and said to Jack Walton and the others, I'll take her back. Rest early for now. Then he went upstairs first. He put her on the bed after entering the room. He half sat on the bed and gently caressed her forehead. Are you willing to tell me what happened? She looked at him warmly and shook her head. William Walton stroked her hair. Then, do you want me to go out and be alone for a while? She still did not speak. William Walton thought that she had tacitly agreed and stood up. Just as he was about to leave, she reached out her hand to hold his sleeve tightly without letting go. Chapter 80. I won't let anything happen to her. He could feel the fear in her eyes as she looked at him. Although he didn't know what she was afraid of, however, he knew she wanted him to stay. He laid down beside her and looked at her, saying softly, Then I'll lie here with you. I won't go anywhere. Don't be afraid, just get some sleep. As she listened to his words, she slowly closed her eyes. Even though it had been quite a while, she still felt a lingering fear. Beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. He reached out, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and put his arms around her. Not long later, her warm breathing became even. She fell asleep. At that moment, a knock came from the door. William Walton slowly let go of the Laura Green and quietly got down from the bed. He walked to the door and opened it. The person who was standing outside the door was Carol Wright. She raised her head to look at William Walton, her eyes filled with tears. Is Miss Green all right? Her voice was slightly hoarse. When he heard it, he knew that she cried for a while downstairs. William Walton turned around and looked at the girl on the bed, then closed the door and walked out. She's asleep. Believe me, I didn't do anything just now. Carol Wright reached out and grabbed William Walton's arm. I'm the same as you. I like her very much as well. What happened just now? She raised her right hand and covered her eyes. William Walton said, Carol, don't cry. Do you believe me? She released her hand and looked at him with teary eyes. William, do you trust me? William Walton nodded his head. I do. He patted Carol Wright's shoulders. It's fine now. Go rest early. Miss Green will be fine, right? William Walton replied seriously. Yes, with me here, I won't let anything happen to her. His words made Carol Wright feel even worse. This was the William Walton she had never seen before. He spoke of his promise to another woman in front of her so firmly. Carol Wright's heart felt as if a corner of it had been torn out, and it hurt greatly. After she left, William Walton went back to his room and gently hugged her until daybreak. When the sun hit the room, her eyes opened a little. She moved her body and realized that she was in his arms. She looked at his beautiful sleeping face and pursed her lips. William Walton also opened his eyes at this time and looked at her. Does it look good? What? Am I good looking? His charming lips curled up as he looked at her. She frowned warmly and wanted to get up with a disdainful expression. However, he pulled her back into his embrace. You want to destroy the bridge after cross the river? Laura said. I want to get up. He held her tightly. How do you feel now? Are you feeling better? She nodded. What happened last night? Did something unpleasant happen between you and Carol? That horrible image from last night rushed into her mind once more. She frowned, obviously resisting the memory. No, nothing. Then why are you screaming so fearfully? It's my problem. She struggled to get up. However, William Walton was not easy to deal with. He turned over and pressed her under his body. He looked at her with a domineering expression. Must there be a secret between us? Everyone had a secret, she said calmly. If people are like a piece of white paper in front of each other, it will be looking at yourself in the mirror. William Walton lowered his head and sucked on her lips, gaining an advantage. That makes sense. Laura Green frowned. Ah, you did this again. This is my reward for protecting you last night. He smiled evilly and sat up. Compared to before, you have improved a lot. What did you mean? She wondered. The last time you opened your eyes and saw me on the bed, weren't you shocked? I am very satisfied with your calm performance this time. She was so shy. Why he had to say that? When the two of them went downstairs, Jack Walton and Carol Wright were already eating breakfast in the living room. Seeing them come down, Carol Wright got up and walked to the head of the stairs. Miss Green, are you all right? Laura Green nodded. I'm sorry, Miss Wright. Did I scare you last night? I'm still okay, it's just that your appearance makes me very worried. I'm fine. When I saw you in the bath with your eyes closed, I thought. She looked at Carol Wright. Some things shouldn't be said carelessly. Carol Wright tilted her head and laughed. You can't be thinking that I'm dead, right? Her warm face turned red. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Carol Wright held her hand. Oh my God, I'm fine. Don't apologize to me, I'm just too tired, so I fell asleep. I didn't expect it to scare you. The one who should be apologizing is me. If you're fine, I already feel very fortunate. Jack Walton, who was at the dining table, said, Don't stand here, let's eat breakfast together. She followed Carol Wright to eat lunch together. William Walton followed them. Others might believe her words, but he didn't. From his point of view, the fear of Laura Green was a fear that went deep into the marrow of one's bones. The reasons should be more complicated. Now he was slightly vexed because he noticed that he didn't know anything about her past. In the following week, she can be described as calm and happy in the company. Annie was dismissed. Because Amy had used her previously, she restrained herself a lot and did not even dare to talk to her anymore. What made her feel the most at ease was that she didn't have to deliver meals at noon. One had to know that the process of going upstairs was a great test of a person's detection abilities. It was obvious that she wasn't up to the task of sneaking around. In the afternoon, she was eating in the dining hall, and Zoe had come down as well. After she finished her meal, she sat down next to her. She gently smiled at her. Director, hi. Zoe said amiably, Just call me Zoe from now on. Calling me the manager is too awkward. But other people will call it that too. I can't do anything different. But you are not anyone else. You are my lucky star. Without you, I can't be promoted. While the two of them were chatting, Amy walked over. She said timidly, Director, Laura Green, can I sit here? Laura lowered her head to eat and pretended not to hear anything. Seeing that, Zoe said, My apologies. I am currently discussing things with her. How about you go eat at next table? Amy's face was slapped, instantly becoming red. Oh, okay. When she left them, she turned her head to look at Laura Green and showed an expression of unfairness.